Hey everybody, Dave here. Hope you're having an awesome day. So, this week I took an old build that I made, I don't know, maybe a year ago, and I don't have him here with me because I forgot to record it, so I'm going to do a quick switch to a photo and talk about it while you look at this photo. So, I think originally the body was, the hips were like a little too wide, the stance was kind of weird, the arms, the little turrets were kind of like little T-Rex arms, so I didn't love that. And a few people commented said it looked like a watermelon the way it was painted. So I thought, you know what? I don't love this thing, so let's go ahead and rebuild it. So come on, let's do it. Okay, to start this project, I went to the Dollar Tree and I bought this Final Faction toy. Now, if you haven't heard of Final Faction, they're at the Dollar Tree. They are really great little toys for new custom builders. Really cool parts, easy to paint, easy to take apart. I thought these legs would be pretty cool for the rebuild of this droid. So I started to do a little bit of modifications. I put some magnets in both of the legs. And I was thinking maybe I can do some hip joints. But I remember the stance of this was kind of weird to begin with. So I was thinking, well, maybe if I build it out with like a bottle cap, that'd be kind of cool. So a lot of this right now is I'm just thinking through the process of how I'm going to make this cooler. And so I drilled some holes, put that in there, and I wasn't liking it. It was kind of a fail. I was like, oh boy. Because the original one, the hips were kind of on the side and they were kind of weird anyway. So I thought, well, what if I drill this out? Now, to be honest, this was a little bit scary because I'm essentially destroying this part if I mess it up. But I just took a drilled a hole, and then I actually dremeled out carefully and made almost like a hip socket. So I did the same on that side, and the end result's kind of cool. It makes them a little bit taller. The hips are pulled in a little bit more, so I think that's gonna work. Now I got those weird little T-Rex turret arms that I had, so I found this Final Faction arm, and I was like, that's a pretty cool robotic arm. And then this Final Faction like machine gun thing, which came off of that droid that I just bought, so I think that'll work. So what I'm doing here is I'm just gonna drill a hole into this. And I already had a magnet from the original build, so all I have to do is glue this magnet into the arm, and that should work pretty great. On the inside, I just did two magnets, and I hot glued them in the body, and then the legs just clicked onto there. And here's that little gun, just throwing some glue on that. And I think I like this gun. It's a little bit larger and bigger, so it doesn't feel as T-Rex-ish. It feels pretty nice. So there it is, primed up. Now, when I primed it, I don't know why. Maybe because I had a varnish over the top, but it did do a little bit of cracking on me. But that's okay because I want it to have a little bit of weather to it. I'm really liking the rebuild of this. And so, I took my Nuln oil and I was thinking I'm going to just do a wash on it. I had the gray, and my last droid, I painted this primer gray and did this, so I thought, this is pretty cool. But it wasn't quite right. So I started chipping away at it, and I thought, well, maybe I'll give it a little bit more battle damage. So I just took my X-Acto knife and started, peeling off paint. Like, no big deal. Like, I think actually the more damage, the better. And then I just grabbed some pretty heavy grit sandpaper and just started kind of scratching on it and pulling to really give it that grimy battle worn look, like it's gone through bushes and trees and some fights. So this has turned out kind of cool. I don't think I've ruined it yet. So and sometimes these bigger chunks that fall off, it's kind of cool because when you paint over it, it looks like it's been chipped and then repaint. So I'm going to paint this silver. And after I painted this silver, I was like, okay, this looks pretty cool. It's got like a really nice metallic look. Now I'll do my Nuln oil. It's the Citadel wash over the top. Just brush that over the entire body. And then I'll just take a napkin and wipe that down. And I like this better than just the gray primer. It has a little bit more of a metallic robot look to it. So I went ahead and did the wash on the legs, did a wash on the gun. I actually painted a little bit of black on the gun there. I'll show that in just a second. And then I'll go ahead and I'll do a wash on the arms, or the one arm. And then, I just brush it on and wipe it off. And I like to use this rust just to add a little bit more grunge. The more layers you can put on these things, in my opinion, I think it looks quite a bit cooler. So there's a little gun there, like I was telling you. I kind of painted out some areas black. And then I was kind of looking at the body, and I thought the same for the legs. I went ahead and painted out a few details black. So there's the one leg finished, and I'll go ahead and paint up this other leg. But I think that adds a little bit of interest and detail to it. Again, kind of just layering that paint with washes and rust. And then I love coming back with a silver and doing just a dry brush, hit all the edges, and it just, again, gives a little bit more of that worn look and feel. Now, this silly antenna, this was on the original build. I broke it off, and I kept gluing it on over and over, and every time I hit it, it would fall off. So I have this little metal bit that I got in the recycle box at work. So I'm going to go ahead and just Dremel out this old antenna, and I'm going to glue this thing in. I think it looks pretty cool. I went ahead and put a little tank greebly on this later. I didn't actually record it, but... All right, on to the base. I am going to do a little diorama. Last time when I built this, I didn't do a diorama, and I think it was a little bit boring, so I'm just taking some of this foam and just cutting it down with the blade. I really have no rhyme or reason. I just kind of started trimming. And get yourself a little ball of aluminum foil, roll that bad boy up, and roll around the foam, and it gives a really cool little texture. So I found these rocks at a yard sale for 25 cents. So I'm going to utilize a few of these just to give the terrain some interest. And this is some more guitar string that my buddy gave me. They're old guitar strings, and they make cool little pipes or, just old rebarb or wires that can go in the ground. And I just kind of stabbed them in and glued it with some tacky glue. So I'm kind of looking at this, trying to think through. I don't want to add too much. I made a couple of little bricks. I've got this hatch from the front. I've got these weird gaps from when I glued the foam down. I don't love it, so I'm going to take this lightweight patch, and it's for you get a little hole in your drywall, but it dries pretty fast, super easy to work with. Actually, if you wet your finger, you can smooth this out even more, but I did want it to be a little rough and textury, and I think once this dries, then I'm going to take some of the Mod Podge, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of coat this whole thing. Now, should I have done this a little bit differently? Maybe I should have done the foam and then glued the stuff down, but it's fine. And then I primed the whole thing, and once you prime something, it's like, wow, this looks really cool. Now that it's primed, I'm just taking some brown acrylic hobby craft paint. It's like the cheap stuff at Michael's or Hobby Lobby for 49 cents kind of thing. So I'm brushing on just like a brown wash. Then I took some black acrylic, and I've watered this down pretty well, and I'm just mixing some brown, some black, and I'm kind of just dabbling it in there. And the brown paint is still wet, so it kind of runs, and I was thinking maybe it's just like oil stains and some charred earth. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm just giving it a little bit of, again, more depth and interest, painting those bricks, kind of just a brick red. Again, just a cheap craft paint that I had. This is some Citadel, army green, and I got that little hatch, so I went ahead and painted that up green. I did find a little chain that I glued on there, so I'm going to paint that silver later. And then the little guitar strings, I'm just hitting those with a little bit of silver paint. And if I got some brown paint on there, I wasn't too worried about it. Hit it with a little bit of rust. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to take some of this little, hobby grass and glue in a couple areas. And again, I think just adding those little tufts of grass in certain areas gave it a cool feel, like it was maybe overgrown a little bit. So, yeah, I'm going to add just a little bit more over here. Okay, that's looking pretty cool. And I kind of just went around the back of the bricks. I thought maybe I'll add a little bit there, a little bit going down the side. So there's the diorama. I'm going to paint this thing black here, and then we'll wrap this one up. Awesome. All right, that turned out pretty cool. I love the stance of this. It looks way better than it originally did. And the little diorama is pretty sweet. Little magnets for the arms. So let's do a turnaround shot of this. And yeah, as always, it's a great day to be a toy nerd. Have a great one.